If you want to know what's the difference between this and this, you have to watch this review because I'm going to be comparing everything from RGB to Profi, explaining you what is really the difference and what is the best fit for you and what's worth your money. So stick around because you don't want to miss this one. Hey nerds, welcome back to the Fellowship of the Nerds. I am your host as always, Luke Shawalker, and today I have a really interesting video to give you guys. So some people have asked me, like especially when I've done Asteria reviews, what's really the thing about Asteria? And some of you have asked me, offline about buying Asteria, especially Ultima Works because they're the only ones that do that technology, or buying Profi. Some people have asked, that they prefer RGB because they just like the dual. So I figured, after doing the Golden Harvest review, if you recall of Starkiller, I thought be a good time to do a video where I explain to you guys what's the difference between all these technologies, what does it mean, and what's the best fit for you. Because not the ones that I get, which are more for collecting and stuff, might not be at all what suits you the best. So I'm gonna try and go over the different variants of each thing. Full disclosure, I don't no longer have a Golden Harvest. I've never owned a CFX, so I don't have that technology to show you, but I can walk you through it. But overall, I'm going to try to explain to you guys what's the difference between all the types of lightsaber that you can get out there and what's the best thing for you. So let me start. Of course, I'm going to talk about the plastic ones, the one that we all had when we were kids, or I'm assuming we all had ish when we were kids. And these are the ones that used to exist that were, the extendable ones, the telescope ones, they're toys. I think they still make them, but now they make them in a cooler way. So like now Disney does their lightsabers. I am going to talk about Disney, of course, but they have their like the adult version of them, and then they have the kids versions of them, and they no longer are extendables. They're like a fixed blade. They are actually kind of cool. When my daughter used to have, I think she was like 4 or 5, she used to have both a Kylo Ren and a Rey slash Luke lightsaber, and we used to like duel with those. And they really like you could really go to town with them, at least as much as going to town with in the sense of what a child could do, because obviously a child is gonna really hit it hard. They don't really understand, concepts of like something breaking and stuff, and nothing ever happened to those sabers. So they were very interesting compared to what we used to have back in the day, which were the ones that were retractable that you would like, flip and extend. And those were essentially a flashlight with a thing. And that's a good segue to talk about RGB, because RGB is essentially that. So RGB is essentially, it is a flashlight that you can put a blade and, swing it around. Now, the thing is, this is much more advanced than those flashlights that we had as kids. And these, you can put your retention screw, and then you can like really, really go crazy with these. Like these can take a beating, and like there's no issue because there's nothing to break inside. I mean, the blade is hollow, so there's really nothing to worry about. And usually these things are long, so like they really don't impact the core that's inside, so you really don't have that much to worry. And you can see, for the most part, they're not the greatest. See, there's no smooth swing or anything. There's just the hum and that's it. They do have various types of blades, so like like flash blade and steady and pulse and stuff like that. So in that sense, they do give you options, but they're very limited. Now the thing is that RGB is that you have RGB, Super RGB, uh, Neo RGB or something like that. Like so, you have like 3 variants usually in RGB. In any case, whatever you choose is always going to be the same. It is going to be an hollow blade, and you're just going to have essentially a flashlight that's going to be shooting out a light. And as you can see, the light here is not the greatest. Like you get the most light here, and it just goes like dissipates as it goes up. So this is not great. The super RGBs and stuff like that, they are a bit better. So like they will give you a little bit more color and stuff. They're okay-ish, but they're not really, you know, I don't ever feel like I'm holding a lightsaber. On the plus side of those usually do have smooth swing and stuff, so there is that. So you can get something relatively close to a nice thing with the high-end versions of RGB, but at the end of the day, what you have is a flashlight that will have some sound fonts, very limited in terms of sound fonts and stuff like that, but you'll get something. Pros for this: why would you want to buy one of these? If you're a heavy dueler, if it's something that you're just gonna grab one of these things and just gonna go out somewhere and do like, you know, competitions, or you're gonna do like fencing type of things with blades, that sort of stuff, absolutely this is one for you. You're gonna beat the hell out of it and you're not gonna worry about any damage or anything like that. So absolutely okay. And you can find a lot of, like, you know, character hilts on that format, so you're not limited to like something very basic. Like this is the most basic that you can get. This is really a beginner lightsaber. We have given some of these away in the past, and you know, as an entry point for lightsabers, absolutely nice. Again, if you're going to be dueling, absolutely good. I love one thing about these sabers, and they do share this with NeoPixel and Cinepixel, and it's the fact that you long press. Not that, not the change of font, but the fact that you long press it and that goes off. There's no kill switch or anything like that. And once you turn them off, the battery lasts a long time, like a really long time. So in that sense, you know, if you want something that you can duel with, you want something that you can forget up, like once you turn it off, you can, and they usually auto turn themselves off anyways after a while. So even if you forget, they will auto shut down, and you know, you can forget about them. The battery will last a long time in that sense, and it in those things are good. If you want something that makes it feel like you're holding a real quote unquote lightsaber, this would not be for you. If you want something that's going to look amazing on your shelf, again, you will find some character hills or RGB that are okay, but really, usually the ones that are like super high quality are Profis, or NeoPixels or Asteria. So you know, those are the ones that usually the guys making these lightsabers go for, you know, to the highest that they can possibly have. And yeah, you're gonna have to spend some more money if you want to have. But if that's not your thing, this is absolutely fine. Now we move on to NeoPixel and Cinepixel. These are essentially the same, but they're not. So the best analogy that I have is, imagine that both of these are cola drinks. One is Pepsi and the other one is Coke. They're still cola. And I know that a lot of you are going to get very triggered by this, because some of you are going to be thinking, oh my God, that's, you know, that's terrible if you like one more than the other. But it's really something like, so they're both colas, but you know, they have their distinctive flavors and their distinctive ups and downs. I find that the biggest up that in general Single and NeoPixel have over Profi and over everything else is that they're incredibly easy to configure through an app. So in that sense, awesome. If you want something that you don't really need to learn much, that you can, but will still give you the vibe of something really cool, this will be your thing. You can do some dueling with this, not really heavy, but like some will be fine. Well, depending also on the hilt and on the blade. But yeah, like for the most part, you should be able to like have some sparring, some dueling with it, and not have to worry that much. But you do have to have in mind that these blades are not hollow. These blades have pixel connectors, and they have pixels inside, and you know, they can break. So you do have to be careful with those. Also, that means that when you put in your blade, you have to make sure that they're making contact, because otherwise you can turn them on and then there's no light coming through the blade. And it's not because the core is not working, it's because this is not making the connection that it should be making. Now, Now, similar to the RGB, these things will go into deep sleep mode when you long press it and it turns off. So that is very good. And then on the opposite side of that, whenever you turn it on, you don't have that, effect of like a bright light here and then it just diffuminates as it goes on. This is a pixel light. So you're going to get, you're going to get all the cool stuff. Your smooth swing and stuff like that. So all around, NeoPixels and XenoPixels are very cool. Big difference between one and the other is that the one that uses the NeoPixel, with the one that uses the ForcePark app, you can edit stuff like the blink. So like whenever you actually turn this on, this will blink and flash like an actual blade. Where if you're doing the Xeno, which is this one, the app is very good. You can do a lot of things, and there are certain things that you can do. You can put like a pulse effect and stuff, but it's not quite looking like an actual lightsaber. So it does have that. So in my mind, if you're going to go NeoPixel or XenoPixel, go for the one that has the ForcePark. So I think, for example, TXQ uses ForcePark, if my memory serves. So that could be an option, because then you can edit and you can custom so many things of your blade, and there are like effects that you can download and in the app and then like apply it to your saber. So like that sort of stuff is very cool. If you want an example of this, there would have been a video of Obi-Wan Kenobi that I did a long while back, and that one had that's like the effect that the blade had was exactly as you would have gotten on the Profi. So that is very cool. Not that there's anything wrong with Xeno. Xeno also has a lot of functionalities. It has a lot of stuff that you can do on it. But my money would be on Neo because of the ForcePark app. I think it's more complete today than the Xeno app is. Xeno app is supposed to update in the future, and we'll get that type of edit. And then when it comes to that, I guess it's just going to be down to either what you like more in terms of configuration of the actual app, or price, really. So there is that. But these tend to be very, very good. And like I said, same thing that with the others. Like if you don't touch it after a long while, or if you really do a long press, it will turn itself automatically off. So you won't have to be worrying about battery, and the batteries will last for a really long time. The sun. Power off. There you go. So like that's gone off, and you're not going to have to worry about this battery anymore. Some of these will have stuff like this, like a port for charging. It can be handy, I will recognize that, but it's also, it looks bad, what I'm trying to say. So if you want to avoid that, you can get yourself one of these things. It's like a USB cover for your cell phone. You can just put it there, and then with that, it's blocked. It doesn't get any dust or anything like that. It's protected, and this is what I would recommend. Now, next up, we're going to talk about Asteria, and Asteria is a technology that's proprietary to Ultimate Works. So pretty much any Ultimate Works that they sell will have that option. Sometimes it's the only option. So especially on the Inquisitor lightsabers, it will be either Asteria or empty. Like they won't sell it to you in Profi, so do have that in mind. But Asteria is what I consider as a step up above NeoPixel, and it tries to get up there with Profi. What I mean by that is that it doesn't have the limitations of a NeoPixel. You can edit the effects yourself with you just need to know, like you'll have like numbers, and you just have to assign it certain numbers, and then they'll do certain things. It is going to have so many options for you to use in terms of ignitions, power downs, all that sort of stuff, that it's going to be very cool, and it's very user friendly. So you don't really need to know how to code. You just need to do these things on the SD card, and it's really a trial and error until you get it right. Once you get it right, then it's pretty much, it will allow you to copy paste onto every single of the things that you have. So you can have an SD card, for example, with all the things that you want, all the configurations, and you just copy and put whatever sound effects that you want on top of that, and you multiply as much as you want. So that is sort of cool, because sometimes Cinepixel and NeoPixel, the downside that they have is that they will adding a font onto a Cinepixel is relatively easy. You just simply add the additional number of whatever you have on the list of your SD, but sometimes the app won't take it. It won't work properly. So in that sense, NeoPixel with the Force Park art does tend to work better, but it can still give you errors. Where on this is an entirely different thing. So I'm trying to say, it is cool. Big differences is they're now starting to allow certain pre-on effects, which I think is cool. There's no post-off. If you want to have post-off effects like you can have in Profi, so essentially when you turn off the blade for, after a blade turns off to have a sound and stuff, you can sort of do it as in like you can mix the sound that you want on the same file of the blade, turn it off, and then you can just combine both sounds, and that way you'll do as one single audio file both things. But it's not like an additional thing that you can do, an additional layer that you can do independently of the ignition or the power off, like you can do on Profi. So there is that. And my personal pet peeve is that you cannot do force quotes effects and stuff like that on a stereo like you can do on Profi. But I mean, you can do it if you insert, say, for example, on Blaster Deflect, but then it kind of sounds a bit weird, but you can do it. So because it's all like WAP files, so like as long as you're putting them with the same name format, you'll be able to do it. Plus of this, as Cinepixel and NeoPixel, it will have the power off, the auto power off. So that's me waking the saber up. All the usual stuff. And then you long press it. And you can edit that sound. You can have whatever sound you want, and that's it. This saber is in deep sleep. I won't have to worry about the battery of this anymore. So, it is cool. It's almost there with Profi, way more user-friendly than Profi, with certain limitations against Profi. But because of the proprietary technology of Ultimate Works, whenever you buy a lightsaber from them, if you go for a stereo, it tends to be a bit cheaper. So there's that. And they do take part of the pre-kit. So like the cool thing about Ultimate Works is that you can buy a stereo and then you can buy a Profi, and you can, I think nearly all of them, you'll be able to swap cores and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool, because you can go for one, you can go for the other, however you feel like it, and whatever you're, better with. So there's that. You then have Golden Harvest CFX that we've seen the Golden Harvest review, and you can go and will be coming up on the screen if you're looking at this in anything other than a TV. You would see it. If not, there'll be a link in the description. You can see what Golden Harvest does. Golden Harvest is incredibly configurable. Like there's a bazillion options that you can do, but you must know how to code them. You must know how to put them on the saber. Not every sabersmith knows how to work on Golden Harvest, and it has a very, very steep learning curve. Once you get over all of those things, it might be your thing. But when it comes to functionality, so when it comes to like, okay, can I deal with it? It's going to have the same limitations that Profi and NeoPixel and the Seer have. You can deal with it lightly. Like the blades that you have LED pixels inside, so you can break them, and then you're going to need a new blade, if not an entire core, depending on how hard you actually hit the thing. So I wouldn't really be, with anything that's not RGB, I really wouldn't be going into heavy dueling at all. Like, not even a question mark here. Like, no heavy dueling, anything other than RGB. Some medium light dueling also depends on the hilt, and there's a lot of variance there as to what you can do with a lightsaber. But yeah, so you're not gonna be able to do that. But Golden Harvest has a lot of options, but they're not really user friendly. Once you get around them, absolutely amazing. It can be your thing, and it might work. But then, for example, when you get in sound fonts and stuff, not everybody that makes sound fonts will make sound fonts for Golden Harvest or for CFX or for any other thing really that is not Pixel or Profi. So do have that in mind. Some will do it for a stereo as well, and sometimes it requires for you to like manually change certain things. But like for the most part, majority of samples out there will be sold for NeoPixel and or for Profi. So have that in mind because it might also impact your decision. But in terms of like blades and stuff like that, it's gonna be the same blades that you've seen on a stereo, the same blades that you've seen on NeoPixel, and the same blades that you're about to see in Profi, because they're all Pixel blades. So it does have that advantage, and there are differences in Pixel blades. So like there are Pixel blades that will cost a lot of money and they're incredible, bright and beautiful. There are blades that will be cheaper and they'll look, well, that will look cheap. There are companies like, for example, Corbans, that they'll include their blades, and their blades are very cool. Like the Pixel connectors, they're like red, and they look really nice. Ultimate Works also have their own blades, and their Pixel looks tends to be like silver, also very nice blades, light blades, which is something that you'll, for the most part you'll want. So do have that in mind. But yeah, you are gonna have to be considering that you're gonna have a technology that can break. So don't be dueling, but you're gonna have a lot of options, and that leads us to Profi, and Profi is, to me, the king. Why? Because yes, you must know how to code, but sometimes it's not necessarily, provided that you have the right blade effect and the right color that you already want. Then it comes down to sounds, and in sounds you can change any sound font, and I've created a video that shows you how to change any sound font on Profi in less than 10 minutes, and it'll be linked somewhere on the screen here, and it'll be in the description, so you can go there and you can see, provided that you know how, that you have the color of the blade and that it has the right effect and stuff, you're good to go. What I mean by that is, like, this is Corban's Count Dooku. This brings a couple of Count Dooku sound fonts installed, and I went ahead and on the red blades, I put more on top of those, because it was just as simple as following what I say on the video and replacing certain things, and you were good to go. But overall, it was easy. And the thing with Profi is,
I've been looking forward to
this thing is insanely cool. You'll have this, you'll be able to change your blades, your blade color, sorry, with like simply changing a couple buttons and moving your blades around, or changing with a button. So look at that. We just change it in a second. No problem whatsoever.
Good. Twice the pride, double the fall.
You're able to add pre-ons, post-off, whenever you access your blade, and
Master Kenobi, you disappoint me.
you can have different fonts, even on the same font. So if you have a font, for example, this font can have, a bunch of different pre-ons. So every time you press the button, it makes a different sound. The same way that every time you change the font, even though it's the same profile, it'll give you different sounds. The same way for boots effects and stuff like that. So
surely you can do better.
And then you have
surrender, and your lives will be spared.
This is the thing that Stereo doesn't have, which drives me insane, and it's very limited with NeoPixel, because Encino and stuff, you for the most part you have to do it on the app. So, but guys, this thing is.
You have interfered with our affairs for the last time.
But this might not be the best thing for you, because the Profis tends to be the most expensive options. And the problem with Profi is that if you're, like I said at the beginning, if you're going to be dueling, why you're going to spend that money? It doesn't make any sense. Go for an RGB. If you only want something that looks like, the prop, but you're only going to have it on a wall, you can even buy any of these things. Don't have to worry about the technology. Just buy it empty. If you do want something that turns on, but for the most part it's going to be on the wall, and you're not really that worried if it does this or this, you can go for a NeoPixel or CinePixel. You can go for a Golden Harvest if you get around it. You can go for a Stereo, because Ultimate Works, they do have certain hails that they're exclusive to them. So like if you want it, you either get those or you don't get none at all. Case in point, that Seven Sister that you see up there, there's another Second Sister out there, and we've reviewed it. It was a Profi from Corban that's fantastic, but there's a lot of things that they might only exist there, options. So if you want those, you're gonna have to go with them, and you're gonna have to go with Stereo. So it really, what I'm trying to say, guys, it really depends on what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to achieve. For me as a collector, the most important thing is that I get something that whenever I turn it on, it feels like I have the real lightsaber in my hands. Looks nice, especially if I'm outside. It's gonna look amazing. It'll sound amazing. I'm gonna be able to to do some pairing with it. Nothing too crazy, but I'm going to be able to duel. And if you've seen the review that we did recently of Korriban's set, The Duel, I was dueling in that video, lightly, but I was. So like, it goes to show that you can do it, and it's absolutely fine. So it really depends. If you're a person that's going to be going to conventions or competitions and tournaments and stuff for lightsaber combat, you could stop the video right at the beginning with the RGB. You don't need anything else really. But if you want something more, then you have all these options. And I hope that once you see all the options that you have, you can make up your mind better. Also, do have in mind that Profis, for the most part, will have kill switches. So like usually like on the bottom or something, you can unscrew, remove the core and turn on. And sometimes like this Dooku, they won't. So you'll have to remove your battery in order to save it, because their sleep function tends to not be really great in comparison to Xenopex and stuff like that. So there is that downside or upside to Profi, because as long as they have a kill switch and it's accessible, easy, especially if it's easy accessible, then you have no problem. But if it's not easy accessible or there's no kill switch at all, like in this one, you're sort of screwed a little bit. So there is that. If you're going to want something that's Profi, there are a lot of options out there, and I'm not going to get in this video into like where to buy from. If you want to go and buy online on X retailer or Y retailer or whatever, you guys know that I do collaborations with a few retailers, and they'll have their good things and their bad things, like everything in this life. For the most part, I do recommend buying through them, because especially the the customer service that you have post sale for anything that can happen, it's usually in B with them, that you're not going to get this if you're buying, say, from AliExpress or anything like that. So there's that. Besides, depending on what you want to do, it can actually work out better for you, because you might get certain models and certain stuff that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else, such as, for example, or Profi Spear of Darth Plagueis. You can't get this anywhere else other than Korriban, and this thing is, phenomenal. So you might have to, go with one of them, and it'll be a great experience. Some things you will be able to get them online anywhere, especially if you're thinking about RGBs and stuff. Like, that's really not that much different, except for the difference that I said at the beginning. There's like super RGB and stuff like that will give you a bit more, and you might want to consider those. But other than that, there's really not that much difference, and it's really gonna come down to what's your budget, what you want to do with it, how much fun you want to have with it. And nerds, that's the end of my video. I hope that you find that useful, especially useful. I hope that you find that interesting. If you did, please leave a comment for the algorithm and tell me what's the technology that really floats your boat. You would have picked up by now, I'm a Profi guy and to a lesser degree an Astera guy. At the beginning I did a lot of NeoPixel and Xenopixel. Don't do that anymore. I literally just have this lightsaber as Xeno/NeoPixel, and I'm not gonna lie, the only reason why I still have this is because it's the only version that I've been able to buy off Old Man Mole. Korriban did a phenomenal version of this saber a while back, but I was way too late into the game for that. I never got it. They don't longer sell it, and it's very, very difficult to find secondhand. So, I'll have to die with this one. But for the most part, it's all Profis and some Asteras in my collection, and it's a thing I like. But what I like doesn't have to be what you like. So please let me know what it is that you're into, and what it is that you're going to be using your lightsabers for, so I can try and help you better as we go along with videos. Nerds, I've been your host as always, Luke Skywalker. Remember, the Force will be with you always. Remember to live long and prosper, and may the odds be ever in your favor, Melanin. And until we meet again, this is Chief Manage. I'll see you around, nerds.